Hey there, this is Seth Schaefer from Team Just Cause Robotics. We finally got the debut of Season 5, and with it, Bloodsport got its first fight of the season. This will be the first of several fight recap videos following Bloodsport through Battlebots. In this video, I'll be talking about our reaction to finding out our opponent, what we thought about the matchup, why we chose the configuration we went with, and what our general strategy was. Then, I'll also show and talk about the damage that we dealt and suffered, and talk about any problems that we had that might not have shown up easily on TV. First up, Skorpios. Skorpios has a longer history than us. They've been in robot fighting game for a long time. Skorpios is a defensive bot with a fast and aggressive driving style, and with the addition of their hammer saw last year, they have a potentially damaging weapon as well. Sawblaze and Skorpios are really the only overhead weapons we had a perfect plan for though, our disc weapon. After we learned of the matchup, the Bloodsport gang and I went over to Skorpios' pit to look over their bot, and we invited them to our pit to take a look at ours as well. They saw a lot of our weapons, but for whatever reason seemed to ignore the one we'd made especially for them, the disc. The disc is basically our top armor. It's made of half-inch thick AR-500 with a 36-inch effective diameter, and weighing in at around 72 pounds once assembled, the disc is one of our lightest weapons, but because of its geometry, it stores about as much kinetic energy as the thick bar. Using this lighter weapon will also allow us to use a full set of 4 front wedgelets. When we were preparing for this fight, we knew off the bat we needed to use the disc, but we ran into a problem. All of our weapons are 3/4 inch thick or thicker with the exception of the disc. Because of the hub of the gear and the top bearing hub, both pressing into the central bore of our weapons, they actually collided when we inserted them into the disc because it's 1/4 inch too thin. We needed a custom lightweight metal spacer, one with a larger bore and the same screw hole pattern as our weapons, which meant one thing, using the Tormach on site to make it ourselves. We had just one day before the fight. Nick drew up a CAD for the spacer, and I worked with him to ensure it was possible to actually machine it on the Tormach and with the tools they had available. Turns out the Tormach there only had a tiny bit more Y travel than we needed for the part, but in theory it would fit. Then we ran into a second issue. When we were just finishing up the part and cutting the outside contour, the machine simply stopped. An error message appeared on the screen. Soft limits reached. Long story short, the machine can't actually travel while cutting all the way to the physical limits of its travel, and it hit a software limit preventing it from cutting any closer to the edge. This meant I needed to cut a 9-inch diameter circle out of a 1/4 inch thick aluminum plate by hand, which would somehow need to end up balanced well enough to spin at nearly 2,000 RPM. By this time, it was already 11:32 AM. I managed to find that the Vasquez clan from Whiplash had a DeWalt bandsaw mounted on a cutting stand to act as a vertical bandsaw, and they kindly let us use it to cut out the spacer. Once I had the spacer hastily cut out, filed a bit, we assembled the disc weapon, rebalanced it, and we were off to the races. As we were waiting in the lineup before the fight, Ray Billings of Tombstone walked over to the bot, so we went up to talk with him a bit, and were delighted when he complimented the bot. He said something to the effect of being impressed by us having made a bot that both looks good and is actually competitive, and he could tell that we, quote, worked our asses off and did a great job on it. Definitely not a moment that I'll soon forget. To ensure that this TV show we all love so much actually continues to get made, I strongly encourage everybody who is watching this video to, instead of getting your fix of Battlebots on YouTube and from other random videos that are uploaded illegally, to actually pay for the season on Amazon Prime or through one of many streaming services, or just watch it through your cable package on Discovery, because even if you DVR it and watch within 24 hours of when it actually airs, it counts the same as a live view. And those ratings are what keeps this show on the air and will ensure that we actually get a season 6 after this.
Well, we lost 2 wedgelets.
Well,
one of them failed, like, got completely demolished.
Look at this, though. This is
Holy crap.
This is actually the worst damage we've ever taken.
That's holy
Look
crap.
at
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I think I saw this chunk, like, sitting by the exit. That's insane.
Give you a good chunk of robot.
There wasn't a whole lot about that fight that you couldn't see on camera, other than maybe there being just a tiny little split second where you could see the smoke and sparks emitting from inside of Skorpios just before they started having issues moving. When we peeled the front of their robot open like that, I was really surprised by the amount of damage that our weapon could do, but I was definitely happy to see that our bot was able to take the hits and dish them out just as well. We did end up losing our front right wheel somehow. The softer wheels we use at the front are a lot less durable than the harder ones we use at the back. But overall, the robot didn't take too much damage besides those wedgelet mounts getting completely obliterated when our own weapon hit our wedgelets when they popped up. So let's talk about exactly what failure happened here. You can see here there's two different failure modes from the two different wedgelet mounts that we had where wedgelets broke off. The way these wedgelet mounts are constructed, they're supposed to actually be welded as a 3-piece construction with the two parts that stick out from the mounting plate both being welded in place with a tab and slot. The mount on the left side, the weld stayed intact and the part sticking out just bent over. But also you can see that the aluminum threaded rod that acts as an axle that the wedgelets rotate on sheared off on the right side. On the right though, you can see the welds completely failed and the tabs just ripped straight out of the mount, and therefore the entire wedgelet was able to come off in one piece. You can also see that one of the wedgelets, as it came off, got broken in half along a weld seam. The mounts are made out of aluminum, which is welded, and the wedgelets themselves are actually made out of AR500 steel, which is also welded together. And the welding process for aluminum is a bit more complicated and harder to get right, but I believe this might have been a case where the weld penetration on the steel just wasn't good enough. That's all I have for you today. If you liked this video, hit like. Make sure that you find all my other future recap videos by subscribing and hitting the bell icon. And if you have any questions or something to say, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching!